Saturday night, October 7th. It's about 10:20 in the evening. We're beginning the NGC 7550 to 7599 series with the Galaxy 7550 in Pegasus magnitude 12.2, pretty much face on 1.4 by 1.2 arc minutes, lenticular spiral, well positioned on the screen. We are at right ascension 23, 15 minutes, and plus 19 degrees in declination. So, not sure how many we got to go through, but boy, there seem to be an awful lot of galaxies in 50 and a lot of studies to take in. So, let's move on. NGC 7551 we've already seen as an identity alternate of NGC 7540. It's a magnitude 15.7 Galaxy in Pegasus, 0.5 by 0.3 arc minutes, and it is an elliptical. So smallish, brightish, but magnitude 15.7. And it's at plus 16 degrees in declination. NGC 7553 is another Galaxy in Pegasus, the flying horse. Faintish, magnitude 15.4, 0.7 by 0.6 arc minutes, elliptical, 238 million light years distant, and it's at about 19 degrees in northern declination. We've now headed a bit south into Pisces. NGC 7554 is a Galaxy. Faintish, magnitude 15.9, very small, 0.2 by 0.2 arc minutes, and elliptical, 357 million light years distant. This one's a kind of a tiny galaxy, a dwarfish, at probably about 30,000 light years across, but it's packed with stars as a fully spherical elliptical. It's at minus 2.5 degrees declination. Well, you should be able to pick this one out fairly well. It's NGC 7556, Galaxy in Pisces, magnitude 14, but largest, 2.5 by 1.6 arc minutes, lenticular spiral class O, 335 million light years distant. This one's probably about 200,000 light years across. I do believe I'm seeing it in this region of the screen right there. It's at minus 2.5 degrees, and it's very close to a previous galaxy. NGC 7557 is another Galaxy in Pisces, but a bit further north. Magnitude 14.1, a face on 0.6 by 0.6 arc minute spiral, 170 million light years distant, so it's probably about 40,000 light years in diameter. It's at 6, almost 7 degrees northern declination. NGC 7558 is another Galaxy. This one's further north in Pegasus. Almost magnitude 15, 14.9, smallish, 0.4 by 0.4 arc minutes, lenticular spiral, 391 million light years distant, probably about 50,000 light years in diameter, at plus almost 19 degrees in declination. NGC 7559A is another Galaxy in Pegasus. A little further south, magnitude 14.7, 1.3 by 1.2 arc minutes, lenticular spiral, 204 million light years distant, means it's probably about 90,000 light years in diameter. It's at plus 13 and change northern declination. Neighboring NGC 7559A is B, a Galaxy in Pegasus, fainter, magnitude 16, smaller, 0.3 by 0.2 arc minutes, a spiral with some peculiarities. So look for some kind of a little distortion in its shape. 211 million light years distant. It's probably about 35,000 light years in diameter. It's at plus 13 and change declination. Here we have that brightish galaxy that was associated with, I think it was 7555, but I'm not sure. NGC 7562 is a Galaxy in Pisces, magnitude 11.6, 2.2 by 1.7 arc minutes, football-shaped galaxy, and elliptical, 161 million light years distance, probably about 110,000 light years across. It's at plus 6, almost 7 degrees declination. Very close to NGC 7562 is an A. 62A, Galaxy in Pisces, fainter, magnitude 15, 1.5 by 0.4 arc minutes, suboblate, spiral, diffuse, lowercase d, 160 million light years distant. It's at plus 6.5 degrees, so it's probably about 80 to 90,000 light years in diameter. NGC 7563, another galaxy in Pegasus, magnitude 12.8, 1.9 by 0.9, so this is an oblately presented spiral with a large bar, lowercase a, 196 million light years distant. It's probably about 100 that's about the size of our Milky Way galaxy, 100,000 light years. It's at plus 13 degrees and changed in declination. Down into Pisces, but 7 degrees plus north of the celestial equator, is NGC 7564, galaxy, Pisces, magnitude 14.5, 0.5 by 0.4 arc minutes. It's simply denoted a spiral. It is about half the size of the Andromeda galaxy because it's 456 million light years distant, plus 7 and change degrees north. We just crossed the celestial equator into lower Pisces for NGC 7566 galaxy, magnitude 14.5, pure oblate, 1.4 by 0.7 arc minute spiral with a lowercase a, 356 million light years distant. This galaxy is probably as large as Messier 31 at about 150,000 light years. It's at -2 and change declination. I'm also seeing a spiral there. Hopefully we're going to pull that one up soon too, an edgy on spiral. NGC 7567 is a galaxy further north in Pegasus, magnitude 14.4, almost edge-on, slightly tilted, 0.9 by 0.2 arc minutes, spiral with lowercase c, and it's diffuse at 191 million light years, plus almost 16 degrees in declination. Gone further north now. We're not quite blocking yet, but we're getting very close. NGC 7568 is a galaxy in Pegasus. It's also aka 7574, magnitude 13.5, 0.9 by 0.6, football aspected spiral, 377 million light years distant, makes it about as large as our own galaxy. It's at plus 25.5 degrees. And it should have shifted more down to this region as we go further north. Heading further south in Pegasus, NGC 7569, a galaxy, magnitude 13.3, another football aspected, 1 by 0.7, spiral with lenticularity, class O, but it's got a peculiarity to it. I wonder what that is. 287 million light years distant, puts it about 80 to 90,000 light years across. It's at almost plus 9 degrees in declination. Heading north again in Pegasus is NGC 7570, galaxy, magnitude 13.2, oblately presented at 1.6 by 0.9 arc minutes, a spiral with a bar. It's 214 million light years distant. It's probably about 110,000 light years across. It's at plus 13.5 degrees. And we haven't moved very far in right ascension. We're now at 23 hours, 16, almost 17 minutes. NGC 7571 is another galaxy in Pegasus with an egg, also known as 7597. Its magnitude 14.9, pure face-on, 0.9 by 0.9 arc minutes, 503 million light years distance, probably about 160,000 light years across, slightly larger than Messier 31. It's at plus 18, almost 19 degrees in declination. Not too far from NGC 7571 is 7572, galaxy Pegasus, magnitude 15, kind of edgy on, so it should be interesting to look at. 0.8 by 0.2 arc minutes, a spiral with a lowercase a. 574 million light years distant, places it roughly about the size of Messier 31, 150,000 light years. It's at plus 18 and almost a half degrees in declination. We've gone deeper south now, NGC 7573, a galaxy, and surprisingly, we're still seeing some galaxies in Aquarius. Magnitude 14, 1.3 by 1.1 arc minutes, spiral with a bar, 357 million light years distant, makes it probably somewhere around 130,000 light years in diameter. We're at minus 22 degrees, so it should be up in this region of the screen. Heading well north again to NGC 7575, a galaxy in Pisces. It's at plus 5.5 degrees. Its magnitude 14.8, but smallish, 0.5 by 0.3 arc minutes. A lenticular spiral, class O, 445 million light years distant. It's probably somewhere around 70,000 light years in diameter, smaller than our own Milky Way. It's at plus 5.5 degrees in declination. Having turned the corner, we're now at NGC 7576, galaxy in Aquarius, but northern, minus 4, almost 5 degrees in declination. Brightish, magnitude 12.9, 1.3 by 0.9 arc minutes, spiral with a lowercase a, 161 million light years, is probably about 75,000 light years across, and as I said, it's at minus almost 5 degrees in declination. Okay, we'll be lucky to pick this one out. It's NGC 7577, a galaxy in Pisces, magnitude 16.5, smallish, which means light will be a little more intense, more like a star. 0.3 by 0.2 arc minutes spiral. It's at plus 7.5 degrees in Pisces. It will prove challenging to turn up on the screen. NGC 7578A is a galaxy in Pegasus. Magnitude 13.3, face on 1.4 by 5 by 1.5 arc minutes, lenticular spiral, 538 million light years distant, means it's probably something like 225,000 light years across. It's at 18, almost 19 degrees northern declination. Where there's an A, there's a B. NGC 7578B, galaxy in Pegasus. Very close, magnitude 14, 0.8 by 0.8 arc minutes, elliptical, and it's probably in the same group at 519 million light years distant. This is plus 18 3/4 degrees northern declination. NGC 7579, another galaxy in Pegasus. Further north, we may be getting some obstruction, perhaps not. Pretty close though. It's a magnitude 14.5 by 0.4 compact galaxy, 550 million light years distant. So it's probably somewhere around 75 to 80,000 light years across. It's at plus 9.5 degrees, which is why we're not getting blocked. NGC 7580, another galaxy in Pegasus. Magnitude 13.7, 0.8 by 0.6 arc minutes. Spiral with some peculiarities, 200 million light years distant. It's almost precisely at 14 degrees northern declination. We've seen this Edgy-on galaxy before. Here it's 7581, but we've also seen it as NGC 7541. So that was in the last group. Its magnitude 11.9, 3.5 by 1.2 arc minutes, spiral with a lowercase c, 115 million light years distant, puts it about the size of Messier 31, 150,000 light years. It's at plus 4.5 degrees. I thought we'd see it again because it's purty. NGC 7583 is a galaxy in Pisces. It's also NGC 7605, so it's a look ahead. Magnitude 13.7, 0.7 by 0.7 arc minutes, spiral, 169 million light years distant. I guess that's probably going to be somewhere around 60,000 light years across, plus 7.5 degrees in declination. NGC 7584, another galaxy in Pegasus. Magnitude 14.3, face on 0.4 by 0.4 lenticular spiral, 577 million light years distant. That probably puts it at about 75,000 light years in diameter. So pretty condensed if it's a lenticular. It's plus 9.5 degrees in declination. NGC 7585 is a galaxy in Aquarius, magnitude 11.4. It's 3.1 by 2.7 arc minutes. Spiral with a lowercase a, 153 million light years distant, makes it about the size of Messier 31. It's at minus 4.5 degrees in declination. And probably this one right there, isn't it? Yep, pretty easy to identify. NGC 7586, another Galaxy in Pegasus, magnitude 15.1, 0.4 by 0.3 arc minutes. Lenticular spiral, 843 million light years distant. So it's probably something at that distance about 110,000 light years across, a little larger than our own galaxy, plus 8.5 degrees in declination. Not far from 7586 is NGC 7587, another Galaxy in Pegasus, magnitude 13.9, almost slightly tilted edge on, 1.2 by 0.3 arc minutes, spiral with a bar in lowercase ab, so it has some interesting attributes. 392 million light years distant, probably puts it slightly smaller than Messier 31, about maybe say 140,000 light years. It's at plus almost 10 degrees in declination. NGC 7588 is another Galaxy in Pegasus, faintish and smallish, 15.7 magnitude, 0.3 by 0.2 arc minutes, simply attributed to being a spiral, 484 million light years distant. It's probably about 50 to 60,000 light years in diameter at plus 18.75 degrees declination. We're getting pretty close to losing some aperture now as the Earth continues to spin. NGC 7589, another Galaxy in Pisces, magnitude 14.1, 1.1 by 0.7 arc minutes, football shaped spiral with a lowercase a, 408 million light years distant. This one's about 150,000 light years across. It's at plus barely 1/4 degree above the celestial equator. To the north in Pisces at plus 6.5 degrees is NGC 7591. It's magnitude 13, 1.9 by 0.8, nice obliquely tilted spiral with a bar and a lowercase bc attributes, 223 million light years distant, plus 6.5 degrees. NGC 7592 is a galaxy in Aquarius, so we're further south. Magnitude 14, 1.1 by 0.9 arc minute spiral with a lowercase a, 327 million light years distant, puts it about the same size as our own Milky Way. It's at minus 4.5 degrees in declination. I knew Aquarius was tall, I didn't realize how wide it was as well. NGC 7593 is another Galaxy in Pegasus, magnitude 13.6, 1 by 0.6 arc minute spiral with a lowercase bc, a 185 million light years distant, so it's probably about 60,000 light years across with that apparent size. It's at plus 11.5 degrees almost in declination. NGC 7594 wasn't too far from 93. It's a Galaxy in Pegasus, magnitude 13, 1.4 by 0.9 arc minute spiral with a lowercase b. This one is 484 million light years distant, which puts it at about 210,000 light years in diameter. It's at plus 10, and a little more than plus 10 degrees in declination. NGC 7595 is a Galaxy in Pegasus once again, not too far from 94. Its magnitude 15.9, however, 0.5 by 0.5 arc minute, elliptical. It's at almost plus 10 degrees in declination. Dipping back down into Aquarius once again, but probably not his bowl, is NGC 7596 Galaxy. Its magnitude 15.2, it will blatantly presented 1.1 by 0.5 arc minute lenticular spiral. It is 319 million light years distant, about roughly the size of our own Milky Way. However, it should be brighter than our Milky Way given its lenticular at the same distance. It might bear some mathematical treatment. We're at minus almost 7 degrees in declination. Well, with NGC7598, we're getting some reasonable amount of obstruction from the roof tri. It's a Galaxy in Pegasus, and we may not be able to see it because it's magnitude 15.6, smallish, 0.3 by 0.2 arc minutes, has some peculiarities. It's a little more than 500 million light years distant, 502 attributed here. And given that distance is probably something around 50 to 60,000 light years in diameter, it's at plus 18 3/4 degrees declination. Not likely that we're going to see it, but who knows. Well, we're not going to be seeing NGC 7599. It's a Galaxy in Grus. However, it would have been a very good one to have seen. Magnitude 11.5, 4.4 by 1.4 arc minutes. So a nice spiral barred presentation. 75 million light years distant, but unfortunately it was minus 42 degrees in declination. We're now at right ascension hour 23:19. I may do a little check to see if we can get another view of Messier 110, maybe 7448, but it would have progressed too far. And on that we will carpe noctem out. But first, a little look ahead. NGC 7600 is a Galaxy in Aquarius, brightish, magnitude 11.9. Some nice extension on it, 3.1 by 1.6 arc minutes, 157 million light years distant, places it about the size of Messier 31. It's at minus 7.5 degrees. So that's a look ahead to the next series. Hopefully I will be able to get out tomorrow evening in order to explore the 7600 to 7649 series. And before you now is tonight's visit to Messier 110. That they're fairly large. Satellite galaxy, I suspect it's somewhere around 25,000 light years across, of Messier 31. And we like to get these looks principally because it gives us a good idea. Now look beyond, there's obviously a brightish core, looks stellar but large. There's a core region around it that extends about the same distance out each side of the core. And then there is a much more extensive nebulosity visible going out towards the 730 and 230 positions. That's a fairly good look at Messier 110, and that will be our carpe noctem.